Hello and welcome back to my channel where I once a year make a top 10 list of my favorite camcorders that I have reviewed in the year. This is the second time I've done this video. Last time I did it was the end of 2023. A lot of people seemed like they enjoyed it, so I figured I'd make another one because it is a little bit fun to make. My criteria for this is the camcorder had to work. I had to have been able to get some kind of test footage out of it, and I forget what the other one was. Some kind of, it had to have been a camcorder that I actually reviewed. Now, there were some other camcorders that I bought throughout the year that I've done reviews on in the past, so those don't count. You guys have maybe seen some test footage from those cameras, like the Sony VX700. I'm not going to be putting that on my list because I didn't do a review on it this year. I only made some test footage out of it, just as an example. Let's start off with number 10. Okay, starting off with number 10 is the Canon XA10 from 2011. This camcorder barely made it onto my list because I was having a hard time finding what camcorder I wanted to put in my number 10 slot. There was a handful of camcorders that I reviewed throughout the year that just didn't end up working, and so I had a hard time narrowing it down to which one I wanted to put in my number 10. There was a lot of different ones, but I went with the XA10 just because it was fun to use. It was cool to see a professional or prosumer level camcorder that was just so small. You could take the top handle off if you wanted to and make it even smaller. It had a record button up on top along with the zoom. You could run XLR on it. The only thing that I had trouble with was running a 58mm fisheye lens on it because the little area where the XLR plugs into sticks out over the lens a little bit, and it's a little bit lower than I thought it was going to be. So you can't really run a fisheye on there unless you take the top handle off, and if you take the top handle off, that kind of defeats the purpose of wanting to film with a fisheye for skateboarding because you don't have the record button up on the top of the handle. So it was okay. I didn't really care for the footage. I noticed that it had, if you were out in the daylight and you had it set to like the daylight setting, it didn't really look that great. Like it was too orange or it would be too blue. You'd have some weird like halo kind of weird like glow that was orange, like right on the edge of stuff. If you pointed it like towards the sun didn't necessarily have to be in frame, but you had to be pointing the camera towards it, I would just look like a silhouette. So I just did not care for the way that it looked. And the best way that I can describe the footage to look is it looked very metallic looking. Like it just, yeah, that's the best way that I can describe it. So let's move on to number 9. Now number 9 necessarily isn't a retro camcorder, but it was still really cool to check out, and that is the Obsbot Tail Air. Obsbot hit me up at the beginning of this year to do a review on their Obsbot Tail Air PTZ streaming camera. So if you don't know what it is, it's like an AI tracking webcam that you don't really have to have set up as a webcam. You can stick it to a tripod. It was magnetic on the bottom, so you could stick it to things that are metal. You could plug in like a 3.5mm microphone to it. It was a camcorder that tracked you. So if I moved left and right or moved away or moved closer, it would pan left and right, up and down, and it would zoom in and out all by itself without you having to do anything. And all you had to do was push record on your phone through the app, and it would start recording or do like hand gestures or stuff like that to get it to do different things that you wanted it to. So it was really cool. It was fun to check out. They wanted me to use it specifically for like skateboarding or scootering, so going to like skate parks and stuff, and it definitely had more hiccups than I thought it was gonna have. If you went to a skate park or in an environment where there was more than just you there, it would get confused or lost and it would just start tracking somebody else. And then, you know, you're feeling weird because now you have this camcorder that's tracking somebody else, and you kind of feel like you're weirdly like invading their privacy because now this camcorder is filming someone else. That was kind of hard to deal with, and then it didn't pan and zoom as fast as I thought it would. If I put it on the fast setting, it would like sit and bobble up and down and just look really weird. So you had to have it on normal or slow. If you hopped up on like a ledge or a rail or something, it would be too far zoomed in, or it wouldn't, you know, it's AI, it's a camcorder. It can't predict what you're gonna do because it's not a person. It pretty much just goes off of movements, and then it would just kind of freak out and it would just look bad. So there was a lot of times where I just was really frustrated with it. But at the same time, like there'd be times where it was just like, man, it would just nail a shot. And then there was other times, most of the time, where it just did not do what I wanted it to. That one's number 9 for a reason. It was fun, but kind of a pain in the ass. Wasn't built to film action sports, more of just slow movements of people. So let's move on to number 8. And number 8 barely made it to my list as well. And this one is the Sony CCD V8 AF from 1986, I believe. Now the only reason why it almost didn't is because, well, the footage was barely even usable. I think the CCD sensor was going out, or maybe needed to be replaced or something like that. It had very foggy, filmy looking footage. It was really hard to see what you were recording unless you were zoomed in to a certain point. The autofocus didn't work on it, which tells me that maybe there was capacitors that were going out. I mean, it would actually accept tapes. You could eject a tape, you could insert a tape, it would record to the tape. There was audio in it and everything like that. It was cool because you could actually unplug the microphone, and then you could actually plug in an external 3.5 millimeter compatible microphone with it, as long as it was self-powered, and use different stuff like that. So that was really cool. Kind of showed some of the more professional things about it from back in the day. But it was just cool to just see like how the build was on the cameras back then, and just kind of see like how different cameras are from different eras of time. And the 80s cameras are always really cool to me because they're hard to find ones that come with the accessories that allow you to actually turn them on, and it's hard to find ones that actually still work properly. So that one was hanging on by a thread. The other thing too, and I don't know if other people notice this, but old camcorders have a smell to them. Like, does anybody else notice that? Yeah, I kind of like it, especially if you like eject the tape and you kind of get your nose in like where the tape compartment is. I don't know, they just have like a smell to them, and it's like a nostalgic smell. I don't know, I'm probably weird for that, but let me know if you like the smell of old camcorders. Unless they smell like cigarettes, then there is a camera in here that did end up smelling like cigarettes. Okay, number 7 is the Panasonic PV-D209 from, I believe, 1999. This might have been the first or the second camcorder I reviewed this year, and it wasn't necessarily a great camcorder, but it was just fun to use. It was a VHS-C camcorder. I personally think that Panasonic made extremely good VHS-C camcorders. I didn't have any issues with it. All of the functions and everything worked properly, and I generally don't really care for the VHS look that comes out of VHS-C camcorders. Well, mostly just JVC ones. I don't know. Panasonic ones, to me, look a lot better than the JVC ones. So I enjoyed using that one. It was fun to film with too, and I think just the day that I was out filming, I was at a skate park that I enjoyed, and it was actually dry enough to actually get some clips. And I ended up taking it to Arizona and southern Utah with me, and filmed a bunch of fun stuff out there as well. So that was really fun. I enjoyed that camera. Wasn't anything special. It worked. It was easy to use, and I enjoyed the footage that came out of it. Moving on to number 6 is the RCA CC4393 from, I believe, 2001. And this might have been the last full-size VHS camcorder that was ever made. 2001, I think VHS camcorders, well, they were definitely like the bottom of the barrel of camcorders. I mean, at that time you had VHS, VHS-C, High 8, Digital 8, Mini DV, DVD camcorders, and hell, you might even have had ones that recorded to SD cards at that time. Probably not, but You might have. Micro MV was even out, so there was a lot of different formats that were out, and so that was the last year that VHS was made, and you could tell that they spent as little as possible to make those cameras. I didn't really care for the footage all that much, but it was really cool to just use a VHS camcorder that had I think it was a 3-inch LCD screen, and it actually had a colored viewfinder. I think there's another model that is similar to that one. I don't know what number it is, but it has a flip out LCD screen as well, but it has a black and white viewfinder. So those RCA VHS camcorders are notorious for the top handle. It's rubber and it just kind of gets dry rot over the years and they end up breaking. So that one ended up breaking, and so I just ended up just snapping the whole thing off so it wasn't flopping around in the wind and stuff. The batteries are a little bit harder to find these days, but I had a battery and I had the charger for it, and one of my subscribers actually sold that to me, so I appreciate that. I threw a fisheye on it and filmed the fisheye, which just looked crazy. just looking at the camera, it was just like, what is this contraption? I mean, it was basic as it comes on features. I mean, there was a couple things that you manually could control. I think maybe the focus and maybe the white balance, but other than that, everything else was automatic. It was crazy to actually see, because comparing it to the late 80s VHS cameras, early 90s and stuff, this one was all the way in 2000, so it was a lot smaller than most VHS camcorders. I mean, it was still a big camera and you still put it up on your shoulder. Compared to most other VHS camcorders, it was fairly small. Number 5, and I probably should have put this one lower on my tier just because I didn't really care for it all that much, but number 5 is the JVC GY-DV300. And this one I was actually on the fence about putting on this list as well. A lot of these camcorders I had a hard time with this list this year because this camera barely even worked as well, and I didn't like it, but I kind of did like it. When I bought it, I remember the seller saying that it was in working condition, and it technically was, but it had a lot of issues. So the microphone didn't have the foam piece on it, so the actual microphone piece that's wired in, you could grab it and pull it out of the camera until the wire was extended as far as it would go, and it just flopped around in there, and I was pretty convinced that the audio wasn't even gonna work, and it did. So I was actually fairly surprised about that. But the LCD screen was actually broken, so it turned on, but I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, the back side of the LCD screen had a dent, so I'm guessing that probably damaged something on the inside, and you couldn't see an image out of it. So you could only use the viewfinder, but the viewfinder didn't have the rubber eye cup, so you couldn't actually stick your eye up close enough to it. You had to kind of hold it away, or you're gonna poke your eye out or scratch your glasses or something like that. There was that issue. It wouldn't read the tape. It would just give me one of the safeguard modes in it. I think it said that there was something to do with dew, maybe some kind of water damage, maybe, because the back of the camera, the menu button didn't work, and there was a bunch of other functions on the back of the camera that didn't work as well, along with the power switch was not a traditional power switch. Normal one is right there, usually where the record button is, a lot of Sonys and Panasonics are, or you have it kind of on the top, above where the screen is, how Canon camcorders are. But this one was on the back, and it was just this metal switch that was just on or off, and it just felt so, I don't know, just cheap feeling. I don't know, it had a 3 CCD sensor in it and everything, and it just, if you looked at it very briefly, you just glanced at it, you would be like, whoa, was that a VX1000? So that's kind of why at the beginning of the video on my review on that, I made that joke. It looks like if you were to buy a VX1000 from wish.com or Temu or something, that's kind of what it looked like. So that was the weird quirky thing. And the other thing too was the lens hood. you couldn't take the lens hood off. It was built into the camera. So you could take these 4 little screws out and take like the plastic like plate off the front, and then you could like maybe put a like fisheye on it. But the threads set in there, like the lens sat in too deep to actually run a fisheye on it. So like, yeah, it was just such a weird camera. Oh, the other thing too was all the air codes and everything, they just stayed on the screen. So like when you're looking through the viewfinder and I was trying to like line up my shot, it was so hard to see like what I was actually looking at because there was just like words just across the screen. It didn't show up in the footage or anything, but it was just hard to see. So I was lucky enough that the Firewire port actually worked. I had to run it tapeless with my MRC1 to actually get the footage out of it. And the footage was okay. It had kind of a weird pixely graininess to it, and I don't know why, but I mean, like the colors looked good and like the exposure and everything was all right. Cause I think I had to run it on auto mode because I couldn't actually go into the menu and like change anything. Cause a lot of the, like the scroll wheel and like the menu button, like none of that worked or anything. So I just had to like run it pretty much on auto. I believe they marketed that as the like first prosumer level like live streaming camera. And I think that camera was from 2003, if I believe. And it kind of made me wonder, like, why did they make this? Like, who did they make that for back in 2003? Because I don't even think YouTube was even out until, what, 2005 or 2006? And I don't even think you could live stream on there back then. So what would the point of that be? Like, where could you actually live stream back in 2003? So we're getting down to some of my favorites. I mean, these have all been my favorites, but my all-time favorites. And number 4, and just like last year, you guys might get a little angry with me, but maybe you'll feel the same way. Number 4 is the Sony DCR VX2100. It's not my favorite of the VX lines. The footage is honestly very, very close to being HD looking. The footage looks really, really good. More of a fan of the VX2000 than the 2100. I just think the 2000 has a closer, has that more 90s, early 2000s mini DV look to it. And this one kind of has more of that mid 2000s HDV look to it. It's not HDV, but it's close, in my opinion, especially if you capture with Firewire. And I think, but I mean, all around, like this thing's fun to film with. VX, they feel like they're built really good. They just feel beefy. They feel solid. They don't feel cheap. Like they feel dense. They're heavy. So this one's actually a newer VX2100. The VX2100 came out in 2003. And this one's actually from 2006. So they made these for a few years. And then I think 2007, I think they came out with the Sony FX7, which was an HDV camcorder. So I'm gonna guess that it was probably the one after this one. All right, we're getting to our podium finishers. So our number 3 is another recent one that I've done. And that one is the Panasonic DV300. And I still have this one. This is a cool camcorder. So, like I said in my review, some of the footage that I've seen of this camera, other people's footage looks more like it's on film, like a film camera or a cinematic look to it. And for some reason, I don't know, this one doesn't. So I don't know if there's a setting that's in there that it makes it look like that. This one has that early mini DV look to it. It does have a 3CCD sensor in it, so this thing is going to look very close to like a VX1000, and it pretty much is like the VX1000. I mean, it's Panasonic's version of the VX1000. I'm pretty sure that they released this camera to rival the VX1000, and we know who won out of that. I don't think a lot of people know about this camera unless you're like into retro camcorders. I'm pretty sure this was the rival to it, and this thing works pretty good. I put it on my podium because, well, it's a weird camera. There's no LCD screen, obviously. It's goofy. So it came with this rubber lens hood, and you can close it, open it, manual focus ring, the biggest viewfinder I have ever seen, and it has a very big articulation on it. Weird placement for the mic. You get this cool little door that's right there, and you get some manual functions there. So I don't know why, I love that part of the camera for some reason. To get to the battery and the tape and other playback functions, you can pop that open and you get all your playback functions there, along with being able to pop that open and you can see the tape compartment and the battery and everything. Ejecting the tape is kind of a process, and then getting the battery out is also kind of a process. I'm thinking that maybe the spring is just getting kind of soft, because I'll release it and it doesn't pop up. Like, I kind of have to force my finger down there and push it up manually. Yeah, it's a weird camera. It's really cool though. One thing that I just don't like, and I don't know why they did it like this, is there's no FireWire port, there's no S-Video port, and there's no RCA or AV port. There's a plug-in right here, and it says multi. So that is your AV S-Video plug-in. It's one of those cables that's like your yellow, white, and red, and then you also have S-Video, but then the other end plugs in there. I don't know if you can even find one of those cables anymore. I don't even know what you would even look up on eBay. You might be able to find it on eBay. The other thing is that, like I said, there's no FireWire port on it. And if you look at the bottom of it, there's no, well, there's like a, it almost looks like you would slide the camera into like where the battery charger would be, because it's kind of got like the same grooves as the battery. So I'm assuming that that's where you'd plug it in, because there's also, you can see those little connectors down there. So I assume you'd slide it into like the battery port, and then there was some kind of FireWire that either plugged into it or just was, you know, built into the battery charger, and then like you loop it out to like your computer or whatever. I don't have the docking station or whatever, but I do have the multi cable, so like the RCA S-Video. So I did capture the footage with S-Video, and I think it looked pretty good. I just used my VCR technique to do it. So super weird camera, but I mean, you can put a external mic on it and you can plug in headphones. So that's on there, but other stuff wasn't. Don't know, I don't know. There's not a lot of information on this camera. Okay, so number 2, you guys might also get a little angry with me on this. My second favorite is the Panasonic DVX100. Been wanting one of these for a while, been wanting to check one out, and I just luckily got one that was almost in like mint condition. It's got low hours on it, a little dusty, but there's hardly any scrapes or scratches anywhere on it. Wow, do I love the look that comes out of this. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. This one also is a little bit more on the HDV looking side, but there's something to do with Panasonic's 3 CCD sensors that I just really like. They just have great color and great detail. I haven't played around with this all that much, but there's a lot of different manual functions that you can put it in. There's a bunch of different like scene files that you can choose from. You can choose from shooting in 24p, or I think, is it 30i or 30p? I don't remember. But I mean, I don't know, the camera's just fun. I'm pretty sure I got it for like really cheap as well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say that's not repetitive with all the other cameras. I'd like to film some more like skateboarding action sports with this. That hobby is becoming a relic in my town. So it's getting a little harder. There's lots of manual professional features on here. If anybody has the money to get one of these that's in good working condition, I highly recommend it, because you will have a lot of fun filming with this. The one weird thing, and I mentioned this in my review of it, is whoever owned this took like the plate to a tripod. You know how it can be like grippy? Can it have like a mesh to it? Well, to me it looks like they heated it up, got it really hot, and then just stuck it to the bottom of this, because you can see like the weird, this stuff right here. That looks like a freaking tripod mount to me, and you can see that it's not straight. It's a little crooked, and in my opinion, it doesn't help with the grip at all. Like, it's just as slippery, like it still gets loose like fairly easy. So whatever they did, however they melted it, it didn't work. So that's like the one weird thing about it. Okay, so number 1, a lot of you guys might be surprised on this, but My number one favorite camcorder that I reviewed this year is the Sony CCD FX730V. This camera is from 1993. That camera was just fun as hell to use. And on top of that, I just really enjoyed the footage that came out of it. I believe it was Sony's first camcorder to feature a LCD screen. And I think that is why they put the letter V at the end, because I've looked up on eBay to see other ones that people are selling. And I didn't add the V at the end, so I searched Sony CCD FX730, and they came up with like some kind of VCR, and I was like, is this the wrong model? Am I looking at the wrong thing? And so I think I found like my search history on eBay, and I noticed that I put the V. I was like, okay, let's put the V. And sure enough, that camera popped up. So I was like, what? Okay, that's so weird. So yeah, if you want to look for one of those cameras, make sure you put the V at the end, or you'll be looking at VCRs. That camera was the one that smelled like cigarettes when I got it, and that kind of pissed me off. The little view screen, if you want to call it that, like that little thing there, you can kind of see the window into like where the tape sits. That was like yellow, and I don't know if it was because of nicotine or if it was just because that's how they made the color of it. So that was a little weird. The screen, it flipped out. You know, most screens go like 90 degrees. That one, it opened up to like up to here. So I want to say like what, like 110, 120 degrees maybe, instead of just 90. So that was really cool, because then you didn't have to like shimmy the camera sideways to show people, or like flip the screen around and close it and try to show people. Like you could just open it up farther and have other people watch it. So that was really cool. Had a couple, like, I don't want to say like professional features, but more like manual features that made it more fun to use. The tape deck was a little messed up. If you went into playback and then rewound it, it had this clicking sound, and I want to say that there might have been a reel gear that was cracked, but you could hear it clicking. And so I would try to do the slow rewind. So if you push play and then hold rewind, it'll rewind slower, and you'll be able to see like the image and everything on there, instead of just hitting rewind and it goes really fast. Because I didn't want it to like spin really fast and then break the camera. But the viewfinder was black and white. It was a little loose, so it would kind of wiggle a little bit. And the record button on the back of the camera, it was a little unresponsive. You kind of had to push it hard to get it to record. And if I remember right, I think I had 2 record buttons. I think there was one on top as well. So that was really nice if you wanted to, you know, throw it on like a handle or something, or just have a secondary record button. I always talk about skateboarding because it's just fun for me to film skateboarding. You could change the footage, I think it was the hue. So you could change it to be more green, or you could change it to be more red. And I remember I changed it to be a little bit more red, not too much. And then I took it on a trip to go to like Jackson Hole, Wyoming, out in that area. And it was like peak fall time. So like there was just the colors everywhere. And the reddish color that I chose just made all of those freaking like trees and everything, just the colors just popped so good. And it was just this warm fall feeling, and it was actually warm outside, so it was like really nice to be out. And man, I think video 8 footage might be my favorite look. Like, I like it better than mini DV, I like it better than VHS, because the 2 FX models that I've messed with, and then this FX730V, man, the footage, I just love the way that it looks, because it has that kind of VHS look, but the colors and the detail are just better. I don't know if other people feel that way about it, but I definitely enjoy the video 8 look. My sports, the 3rd chapter video, that Jackson Hole fall time footage is in that. So you guys will see that on Christmas, so if you haven't already. So yeah, that is my list for my top 10 favorite retro camcorders that I've reviewed this year. Let me know if you agree with my list. Let me know if you would rearrange this list in any kind of way. If you feel like doing the research on my channel, you can go back and see what cameras I've reviewed in 2024 and let me know what your favorite one was. Or just let me know what your favorite one was out of this list. I know a lot of people aren't gonna think that the Sony FX730V is the best camcorder out of them all, but it's not about that. It's about what one that you enjoy using the most. So definitely the mini DV camcorders are heavy on my channel. They're always heavy in my top 10 favorites lists. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you enjoyed my content, make sure you subscribe, because we talk about old school retro camcorders almost on a weekly basis. And if this video does good, maybe I'll make a top 10 worst camcorders I've reviewed video, and maybe I was thinking maybe top 10 weirdest camcorders I've reviewed. So until next time, you have a good one.